In 2025, our host Arbana traveled to Paris for a conference on Iran. While there, she met with 4 female activists. Not Silent is proud to present the first of 4 interviews with these brave activists. Azadeh Alemi. Note: Azadeh's interview was in Persian through an interpreter. We have dubbed her responses in English in this episode for your viewing convenience. You can find the same episode available without audio dubbing in Azadeh's own voice in Persian on our YouTube channel. Both versions include both English and Persian/Farsi subtitles.
So, can you tell me your name and where you're from? And then I want to know more of your personal story because you've mentioned in the prison with your mom.
What is my name? My name is Azadeh Alemi. I am a writer and activist. I came to France when I was 11 years old. But before that, when I was a very small child, together with my mother, I was forced to spend some time in prison. This was because my mother was a political prisoner and a political activist, and because of her resistance and struggle against the Khomeini regime, she was arrested. She was sentenced to several years in prison. What I remember from my childhood is that I went to prison at different times and at different ages. Once, when my mother was arrested, after the executions, our entire family, including my uncles and aunts, was targeted. They later came and arrested my grandmother, who was taking care of me. Because of that, I spent 6 months in prison there. What has stayed with me as a memory from that time is that I was held in a general prison ward. That, they were there with us as we were growing up.
Can you tell me what do you remember at that time when you were 6 years old with your mother within the jail? Can you explain a little bit how it felt?
The second time it started, I was about 6.5 years old. It was when I was in school, unfortunately. Instead of going to school, I was taken into Evin prison. There, with my mother, from the very first hours, I witnessed my mother being interrogated. Right in front of me, as they questioned her. Even one of the interrogators hit her on the head with his hand and told her that her time was not over yet, that she had become harsh in prison, and that she had returned here. That night, after the interrogation ended, they took us to solitary confinement. It was a single cell, very small, very dark, and without any light. There was only a small window up high, and 2 blankets and a small bowl. We spread the blankets on the floor, and my mother held me in her arms. What was very difficult for me was that every night, when it became completely dark and there was no light at all, the torturers would come in the early morning and take my mother away for interrogation and torture. Every night, they took her away. They would pull me out of my mother's arms and leave me alone in the solitary cell. I was there alone for 2 months. When my mother returned, she never showed me what they had done to her. She tried, during the moments I was with her, to raise me properly. She would hold my hands, tell me stories, and comfort me.
How did you find out later what were the methods of repression or what they have done to her within the jail?
Later, when my mother was released from prison, I was older. She never spoke about it, but she was very ill, and she suffered from many different health problems. But one time, when we came abroad, she was one of the witnesses in a court case against a torturer. And in fact, she testified about what that torturer had done to her. That was when I, from the court report, learned what had been done to my mother, the injuries to her body and many other terrible things. She never went into details. She never said exactly what they did to her, but the torture was extremely severe. When she said, "You tortured me," I cannot truly say the words. It is very difficult for me, but what I do know is that in the prisons of the Khomeini regime, the worst crimes were committed against Iranian women, especially women who were members of the Mujahideen Khalq. Many women, before being taken for execution, were raped simply because they were virgins. What else can you expect from such a brutal regime? But once, when I was older and my mother was still in prison, I went to visit her. I saw with my own eyes. When I went for an in-person visit, she was wearing a chador. When she hugged me, I saw that her legs were completely wrapped in bandages. I was shocked, realizing that she had been tortured, that she had been beaten with a whip. She tried not to show any sign of pain, and instead kept expressing happiness at seeing me, and tried to play with me.
I want to just ask you, maybe it's not easy for you to respond, but do you remember how it felt for you to be remained alone in the cell while they took her mom? What would you think at that moment? What is happening with your mother? Because you knew that you were in prison.
From those moments, the only thing that has stayed with me is that I am deeply afraid of the darkness at night, of being alone in a dark place. Even today, as a 45-year-old woman.
When was the moment you have realized the cause that your mother did, and you basically are involved right now in this cause?
I realized very early, when I was 10 years old, that my mother was no longer in prison. She had been released and wanted to leave Iran and go abroad, to join Iranian opposition groups outside the country. There, I clearly understood that my mother did not want an ordinary life. She did not want a simple life with my father and me. A small, neat family, living a normal, beautiful life, something I never had. I never had that in my life. We were never together as a normal family. We went to Iraq, and my mother there continued her struggle. Because the Iran-Iraq war began, my siblings and I, like many other children, left and came to Europe. But the night before, I said goodbye to my mother. She said this to me. She said, "My beautiful daughter, tonight I'm saying goodbye to you because in the future of Iran, no child should ever be without their mother or father. This is the path I have chosen, and the cost of it is that we may not be together, but know that I love you very much. My life belongs to the children, all the children of Iran. I want all the children of Iran to one day be happy, to have everything they need, and to have freedom."
And when did you reunite with your mother and your family?
I didn't stop them. I didn't stop them. But my mother is one of the 1,000 Mujahideen women who are in Ashraf 3. And I, several times ... I went there and saw her, meaning that she sometimes comes here. And I see her, but my mother continues her struggle. I always dreamed that when I came to France and grew up, I would be able to do the same, to walk the same path my mother had chosen, and to be able to choose to dedicate everything to the freedom of the Iranian people. But I want to say this. This choice is a very difficult one, and not everyone can make it. And that is why I chose to stand alongside the women and men of this resistance, and this organization to do whatever is within my power, to work for the freedom of the Iranian people, holding nothing back and giving all my effort to this resistance and to the elected president of this resistance, Khanum Rayavi, and to do whatever she, for the Iranian people, and whatever she is doing, I will do whatever I can to help as well.
I have two last questions. One is that obviously the women are those that are in front line fighting for freedom and the courage starting from other generations. So it didn't start in the last 2 years, but as your mother's story and before her. So what is your message for the younger generation? And secondly, do you think that international community is doing enough for your cause?
My message to the young generation of women, especially the women of Iran, is that they must know this struggle began more than 45 years ago. We did not arrive here overnight. Many, many courageous women took steps on this path long before. Even before some of us were born, fighting for freedom, for their country, to have a democratic future, before they are even allowed to speak freely, before they are allowed to choose their profession, before they are allowed to choose how they dress. I mean, so many efforts have been made. So many women and people have paid the price, imprisoned, killed so many that perhaps some in the younger generation do not even know or are unaware of it, because of the repression in Iran, which does not allow people to learn the truth. As a result, I ask the younger generation to go and learn, to rediscover what the previous generation did, what they fought for, why they fought against the Shah's dictatorship, and why they continue to fight today, and what price has been paid. I believe the most important thing the younger generation must understand is that freedom is never given freely. To achieve freedom, one must struggle, one must give up many beautiful things in life. One must even, I can say, sacrifice one's own comfort. So we must try and continue and strengthen our resistance day by day, so that this long 40-plus year struggle finally bears fruit. Because clearly this is not enough. Not enough for Iranian women, not enough for the Iranian people. I believe what is important is for the international community to come forward and recognize that there is an organization that can truly be a real solution for the Iranian people, and to provide greater support, by which I mean the National Council of Resistance of Iran, led by Mrs. Rayavi. If we truly want change to happen in Iran, we must support the 10-point plan of Mrs. Rayavi for the future of Iran, and support the entire resistance, because the forces inside Iran are struggling every day and night risking their lives with courage and sacrifice. I mean the resistance units operating inside Iran. And until their resistance is recognized, until the international community stands behind these resistance units, and the entire Iranian resistance and the National Council of Resistance, I do not believe real change will occur. It is extremely important that we support them.
And do you have anything else to add?
There is nothing more I can add, only this. I can say that one of the moments in my life when I felt the greatest pride in my mother and in the other women of this resistance was the day I first held my son in my arms when he was born. I can tell you that in that moment, even though I felt a deep ache inside, asking myself why my mother was not there, why she had chosen the path of struggle. In that moment, my mother became my greatest pride, because I finally understood the enormous sacrifice made by women like her. They gave everything they had in their lives. They put their very hearts and flesh on the line and continued their struggle for the people of Iran.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and sharing your story with us.
It's my duty to thank you because I feel what happened to them, why they're fighting, and this cause.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Merci.